So USA team, they defeated
Iran.
And it was after the game, right? In the post game.
No, this was the day before
The day
game.
before.
Yeah, in a press conference before the game. Iran, they beat us in 1998. And there's, long history going back to the 80s and the Shah and all this stuff between the two countries. So a lot of negative history, a politically charged game. And in the press conference, I didn't understand how this worked, but I guess you can have some Iranian reporters in the opening pregame presser. And Tyler Adams, who's the U.S. captain at the age of 23, was facing the media. And I guess Bubba's got a clip.
Yes, here we go.
First of all, you say you support the Iranian people, but you're pronouncing our country's name wrong. Our country is named Iran, not Iran. Please, once and for all, let's get this clear. Second of all, are you okay to be representing a country that has so much discrimination against black people in its own borders?
My apologies on the mispronunciation of your country. That being said, there's discrimination everywhere you go. One thing that I've learned, especially from living abroad in the past years and having to fit in different cultures and kind of assimilate into different cultures, is that in the U.S. we're continuing to make progress every single day. Growing up for me, I grew up in a white family with obviously an African American heritage and background as well. So I had a little bit of different cultures, and I was very very easily able to assimilate in different cultures. So.
Go ahead.
What was notable to me was just the general hostility of the guy asking the question.
Yeah.
Like, there was no build-up to that. He's offended that you mispronounced the name, and then he comes with the racism.
Yeah.
And let's not forget Iran, as they like to call themselves. He's over there abusing women and killing media members.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, and I mean, I hope not credible stories, but there were stories that if the players of Iran lost this game, that their families would be harmed.
No, that's, and every country has their thing. My plan, my mind frame when I'm listening to this, and I had really had time to digest it, is to go way left field on this topic here, because the reporter is, we all know, or at least the reports of what goes on. In Iran and Iraq and those places there. But I still say, man, I remember back in the day I read that other countries know black history better than black people do. Like, and I remember they were going into depth about that. And that kind of rings true a little bit here. I always say, for right now, we're in 2022, right? And first of all, Tyler answered that with grace. It was a great answer because he is correct. U.S. has gotten better from, when things were really bad for African Americans here. And it is steadily improving at its fucking snail pace, but it is. I mean, we're, you whatever you got to say, if you're black, you have to agree. Like we've come a long way from where our parents, grandparents, and great grands have been, and shout out to those guys for being on the trail and paving the way and being instrumental to those changes. But I will say, when it comes to military and when it comes to USA, playing for USA, man, I never understood how those guys could do it at those times. And the reporter, I just think he's in a time warp. I think that question, I wish maybe he could have been there, 20 years ago to ask these type of questions to these athletes and military personnel. I remember hearing there are thousands of stories about during the Vietnam War when they were over there, and the people would scream on the intercoms. Those guys would scream on the intercoms. So, brother, this is not your war. What are you doing here? You know what I mean? Like they were fucking like amazed. They were like flabbergasted that black men were over there fighting them for USA. Like, hold on, man.
Well, that's exactly
they killing y'all, though, man.
That's exactly what Muhammad Ali opposed.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean that's the time period you're talking about, and
Yeah.
he took the stand. I'm not going to go serve. I've got no quarrel with the people in Vietnam.
Right.
I have a quarrel here.
Yeah.
And and he put at the time his career on the line to stand for that proposition.
Yeah, and then these players that are playing for USA and things like that. It's like you're so prideful and you're so, I gotta win for the country and I gotta do it for us, and it's like, man, this country don't give a goddamn about you. And I'm talking about during those times. I just think, like I said, I just think the reporter he's just in the wrong time frame. He needs to be in one of these movies where he could be teleported back 20 years, because I would fucking love for him to be there and to ask those type of questions to those right athletes. Tyler is not the right athlete to ask this question in 2022.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you say that, I still think that the U.S.'s record on racism is poor. It's not defensible. What I would also say is that the U.S. is not alone in that. I mean, most of Europe, predominantly white countries are effectively racist in how they conduct themselves.
Yeah.
And so it's not just isolated to the U.S. and we're the only ones doing this. We're holding on to some time in the past. It is white people. It's white European countries that mistreat black people on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And we're talking about soccer. Every year there's a couple of absurd instances. There are World Cup qualifying games where England, who has a significant number of black players, they went into the game with the notion that we are prepared to walk off the field if these fans in this other country are abusive to our black players. And that's this World Cup qualifying cycle.
Right.
It's a continuing global problem that has not been fixed. There may be progress. I think Tyler was trying to be graceful in saying that. But the record remains indefensible. Now, are you going to, again, I think that it was a loaded question. Tyler Adams is not a person that has made any record of making significant political statements.
Yeah. Why you ask him of all people?
And the reason why is, again, he immediately criticizes him for the pronunciation, and if you notice, he doesn't let him answer or respond to that question.
No.
He rolls right into the racism question. That was just an abusive, obnoxious reporter being a dickhead. And he tried to handle it. There's deeper, more profound answers to that. And on some level, it is somewhat complicated to say, well, I'm going to represent this country, but they're doing this or that wrong. But at the end of the day, and this doesn't just absolve anybody from being a citizen of equality, he is a professional soccer player. This is what he does. The World Cup represents the highest, sort of achievement in that. And to say, well, I'm not going to play because of this, that's a huge statement. Not a lot of people are prepared to do that. And again, we could go in history. Muhammad Ali, end of list. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, who else did it?
Yeah.
I mean, John Carlos and John Smith, 68 Olympics, they competed. They won gold and silver, and then they put the fist up.
Yeah.
And that effectively ended their track and field careers from there, but they went and got the gold first.
Yeah.
I just think it's a little bit of a low-hanging fruit to kind of go at a guy in that situation.
Yeah, and also I think it makes a difference that this reporter. I bet you this reporter didn't even know that he was mixed.
Probably
and
not,
and that
yeah.
I don't even think he knew, and that he, like you said, he grew up with a white family. Like, he's not even a part of. He doesn't know. That's not the right word, but he just doesn't associate himself with the struggles of in the black community because he wasn't there. He didn't have to grow up there. I mean, and that was a part of his answer.
Right.
And if the reporter knew that, he would have known this is not the right person to ask this question to get the type of response that I'm probably looking for.
But he got the response he was looking for. That's what we got to realize.
Okay.
This is not a reporter who has any genuine concern for race relations in the U.S. I'm serious.
No, yeah.
This is a guy who's trying to get and be an annoying, disruptive guy at a press conference. And, it was, like Tyler Adams is our captain. He was going to be a part of this press conference. Not every player was. There might have been maybe 2 or 3 others, and probably the coach. He was just looking at something to dig at. That's the way the Tony asked the questions, the double question. He had a very specific agenda. It's not like there's, you're somebody has said something or made a statement in some way, and you're kind of going at them because they put themselves out there in a spot.
Right.
That wasn't with this guy. This guy just was being a provocative guy.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And guess what? We beat their ass and sent them home.
Yeah. Take that with you.
Take that with you back to your shitty country.